So let me give you an example of a recent primary 6 Compre Cloze that we did, right? So I'm just going to quickly read this so that we get an idea of the content, right? In order to fly, an object must have lift, a force moving it blank. This lift is usually made by wings. Blank create lift because of a relationship called the Bernoulli principle. The Bernoulli principle blank how the speed of air and the pressure in the air are related. When the speed goes up, the pressure goes down, and the blank is also true. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a while. So by right, a student will have to read through the entire passage, right, without trying to answer. The temptation is there because sometimes some of the words already jump out at us. But hold our horses. Let's make sure that we know what's going on first. Okay, so then after that, we will write a heading for this chunk. Notice it's 2 paragraphs in one chunk, right? Because when I set this particular cloze activity, these 2 paragraphs work quite well together because they're talking about the same theme, right? So for this case, right, the first paragraph, the first chunk would be how does a helicopter work, right? Because later on we're going to read this part about propellers and all that, right? A helicopter and so on. So notice I have highlighted some of the words. Now the words are highlighted because they are clues to some of the blanks that the students are required to fill, right? So let's go through the first few, and I would like to kind of demonstrate, right, the logic of this process. So first is to read everything, second is to write down the headings, and then third is to answer the question. So I start with number 1, right? In order to fly, an object must have lift, a force moving it blank, right? So upwards is the best word for this blank because prior to that, we see the word fly, right? And flying, now, of course, you can fly straight and not up, but then you see the word lift, right? To lift something, right? And then a force moving it blank. So we know there is a directional word that we are looking for, and then it's upwards, okay? Now, the preposition here can also be up, right? Because up and upwards are both, will both fit into this context, right? Then lift is usually made by wings. Wings create lift. So if a student has been reading carefully, they will notice that the word wings, right, is in the previous sentence, and lift is made by wings, and therefore wings create lift. So it's a reverse of the previous sentence, actually. The meaning is there, right? So somehow or rather, this author wants to emphasize, right, that wings are important in creating lift. And so the word is here. The clue is, of course, over here, right? Because if you fit lift into this sentence, you know that, what is the thing that creates lift, right? But the previous sentence has already told us that lift is usually made by wings. So the reverse is true. So there is a context here to support number 2 to be wings, right? Then the Bernoulli principle. Now, if you are aware that there are certain principles that help us explain the laws of nature, right? So you know that it describes how the speed of air and the pressure in the air are related, or explained. So the word principle gives us the context, right, for number 3 to be describes or explains, right? Now, the fourth one is a bit difficult. Students need to visualize. So when the speed goes up, the pressure goes down, and the blank is also true. The key word here is also true. Why also true? Because whenever you say something also, right, you use also, you are emphasizing that it is a bit different from the first scenario. So the first scenario is when speed goes up, pressure goes down, right? And then what is also true? Now, so the opposite is also true, right? Or the reverse is also true because it has that same meaning, right? So the context here is also, right? And then the relationship is here. Okay, so that is the way that they can use context to support their answers, right? Don't worry that number 4 is difficult. A lot of my students actually got this answer. Okay, it may seem difficult because now I'm also kind of covering this in a bit of a without the context. But once they have read the entire passage, this actually makes some sense, right, to a lot of them. Hi, this is Dr. Daniel Chua. I hope the video that you have just watched will be helpful to your child in preparation for PSLE English. So if you are interested to sign up for any of our programs, please feel free to check out this QR code, and then you can then find out more about what we do to help our students at Cognitus Academy. All right, thank you.